Welcome back to Real Talk, Season 3, Episode 2. And we've had guests before, but not many. But this person is a very special guest. And I'm really excited today to have Kirsten Jordan, my dear friend and fellow broker colleague, and now 40 years old.
I'm now 40 years old.
Because I was at your birthday party last weekend.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's so funny because I feel like we knew each other before I moved to Elliman. And now that we're like within the same building, and then we have all these commonalities that keep happening.
And we come down. So I'm on 5, Kirsten's on 6, and we'll call each other and say, are you in the office? And then just meet up and I don't know what the hell.
Deconstruct some crazy stuff that just happened.
Decompress, yes. So I want to ask you, you just mentioned when we first met, do you remember the first time we met?
Well, as far as meeting in person, we met years ago in person at like a listing. Like we met at like, I think 12 East 88th Street or something like that.
God, that you remember? Okay.
Yeah. I'm like an addresses and faces person.
Yeah.
And then I think we'd made an offer on it with these crazy clients that never ended up buying anything.
I do remember.
They're not crazy. Yep. I love them, but they didn't buy anything yet. And then I think after that, it was like wasn't it through Vivace?
Vivace. And do you remember?
We went and it was like pouring rain outside at Kirsch.
At Kirsch, next to Barney. I was going to say Barney Greengrass, but we ended up next door.
Exactly.
Yes. And that's when we kind of like, Vivace thought we should meet.
Yes.
And we met and we really talked and bonded. And then the rest is history.
It was like, we like started talking. And
Were you at Elliman then? Were you at Elliman then?
No, I wasn't. What was I? No, I wasn't at Elliman yet.
You weren't.
I wasn't at Elliman yet.
Oh.
I think I was like coming to Elliman.
I think so.
Or I was like just getting. It was like literally like all happening at once. Like I was like coming over that day, or it was like insanity.
God, it's amazing how much has changed in so many ways. I mean, wait, that was before COVID, right? No, I think it was during.
I think
COVID.
It was like during COVID.
Yeah,
I think it was like weird, and we were sitting outside, and then it was pouring rain because you had to sit outside, and then
that's right. God, and COVID feels like a whole other.
Yeah, I mean,
in such a short period, how that, and I remember saying, I can't wait till we don't wear masks, and where I find a mask in a pocket, I'm like, oh my God, remember we used to wear these things?
Or right now when people are like, should I wear a mask outside?
Yes, because the air quality. Yeah.
Crazy.
Sucks. All right. So let's go backwards a little bit. We were talking a little bit beforehand, and you said this weekend you're going to...
I'm going to Westport, Massachusetts. My grandfather has a house up in Westport, Mass. And we like all cram into this like 1890s property that he has on his property, which is not where he lives in. And there's a golf cart and my kids just go crazy.
God, that's amazing.
And they gather sticks for like a whole day. And then they burn them. And we do like a bonfire. Yeah, they love it. Like it's like that's what they do all day. They're like out and getting the sticks. And then we do like a whole body tick check when it's over.
Right, of course. But I love that because it's so, I was going to say 1950s, but I wasn't born in the 50s. But it's even like when I was a little kid, like we'd go to the woods to go play.
Yeah, like there's no good TV. We finally got internet and air conditioning in the house like last year. And it's like a good time for them. There's like the TV's not even good enough for them they'll like watch some DVDs that are super old. So they have nothing to watch.
So they have no choice.
They have no choice.
I love it. All right. So tell me, this is your maternal or paternal grandfather?
This is my maternal grandfather. He's 96.
What's his name?
His name is Bob Pozo.
Bob
Pozo.
That's not his given. Well, it's shortened.
It's Robert Pozo.
No. The Pozo. It's got to be.
Pozo. No, Pozo. He's Italian. And you know, the coach for for like some, I want to say it was like the Italian soccer team that won the world championships in like 1970, whatever. His name was Vittorio Pozzo. Oh. And my great grandfather's name was Vittorio Pozzo as well. And they're from the same region, but they're not actually the same person.
Oh, wow.
So my grandfather's dad came over.
Okay.
And so my grandfather was born here in the U.S., but his dad was born in Italy along with his mother.
And your grandfather he's a businessman, right?
He's a businessman.
Tell me
he's
a little
self-made, self-made businessman who he started off doing sales. I guess he worked for GE doing sales.
Okay.
He went back to school to get his master's at Harvard, actually.
Wow.
After he had been at, I want to say, what's the name of the college? It's Colorado School of Mines is where he did his undergrad. He was a football player. And then he ended up getting into business I want to say after he, went back to school, he ended up going into business making circuit breakers, circuit boards. So it was like in that time when like was the beginning of all
Right.
of that. He had a business partner, and I think he sold the business in 1980. And ever since, he's just been like on boards doing stuff. He never stops. He has a journal where every single day he writes down like 1 or 2 lines about what happened that day. He weighs himself every day. He
Oh my
exercises
God.
every day. He still plays tennis. He like gives you the 3rd degree whenever you meet him. Every time he called me after my birthday party, and he goes,
Why wasn't he there?
he was going to come, but he has neuropathy in his leg from shingles, and so he ultimately
And
decided.
is your grandmother living?
No, he's actually outlived his second wife just as of this January.
Wow.
It's too bad.
Okay.
But he's
sorry.
moving. He's just.
So he's like really a force.
He's really a force, and he's the kind of guy that is always asking you how much stuff costs and how much money you're making. He's always like, so how much do you make on a deal like that? How much?
I love
what's the
that.
percentage
And
commission
at
on that?
96, he's really still
He's so sharp.
engaged.
And yeah, you get him on the phone
Right.
within 3 minutes. He's being like, so how many deals did you do this year? How many houses did you sell? How many apartments? How many apartments does Stefano still have on the market?
Oh my
Grandpa,
God.
you're killing me.
And he's really the patriarch of the family.
He truly is. Like, he's such a force, such a force. I mean, I remember him being, he's always been just a really, really incredible force for all of us.
Right.
It's wild. And we, I call him up, talk to him about stuff. He loves hearing about what's going on. He's very proud,
So I have to tell you, where I was going with all this. I mean, you shared a little bit about your family, and more your family, but your grandfather. I feel like he's not that your parents didn't have as my parents had their role, but he's kind of like, you have his energy.
Oh, I
And,
mean, 100%.
yeah.
Like if anything, I think like, what would Grandpa do in this situation?
Right.
Like because he's like so straightforward and so non-emotional and so just like direct and to the point. To the point where like,
Well, you're
if
like
you
that.
can't take it,
Yeah.
it's you have to be able to take it,
Right.
because
Right.
he's so like. He's so direct that it's actually quite inspiring, and it's being so disciplined and so driven that's amazing. Like, he literally weighs himself every day. Like, I went up to see him over Memorial Day weekend. I got there, and granted, his second wife passed away in January, so it's been a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
he has a dog, but he's on his own, and so
He was still married to your grandmother when she passed?
no, my grandmother passed away when she was 56, actually. So she passed away about 30 years ago.
Okay.
And so he got remarried.
Yeah.
And it was the same summer my mom and dad both got remarried that same summer. So it was the summer of
wow.
1992. And they all three got remarried the same summer. Crazy.
If you're going to do it.
If you're going to do it, everybody got remarried
Okay.
30 years ago.
Can you imagine if it was a 3-person, they all got married
Yeah, hey.
at the compound?
There we go. Let's just get everybody, let's just fix everybody's lives.
3 for the price of 1.
Exactly.
If you're going to cater.
Exactly.
So go on.
Once you go to 100 people, you might as well just go for
Exactly.
it. So I go up there for Memorial Day weekend. I'm like, Grandpa, so we're going to do this. We were thinking of doing dinner this night, whatever. And then I call him up and he's like, I just realized I actually have a cocktail party to go to tonight. It's a Saturday. But it's going to be done at like 7:30. So I'll be back for dinner.
Oh my
But I got to
God.
go to this cocktail party. So he goes to the cocktail party, comes back. He has dinner with us. And then the next day, because he had also had a lunch that day with some friends. The next day I said, Grandpa, do you want to come to lunch with us? We're going to be going into town for lunch. And he goes, I ate too much yesterday. That was a lot for me. So I'm going to be staying home and just having a sandwich. Because, I can't let my weight get out of control.
Wow. Okay.
I was like, you are such.
You will never hear that come out of my mouth. And we talk about my weight too much on this podcast.
Oh, God. You're not. Is that you?
Who is ringing? Oh, my
Oh,
God, it's
gosh.
me. Who is that?
Who is it?
Okay. We don't.
So, yeah.
Anyway,
so he's very
so-
disciplined.
Yeah,
He's very disciplined.
that's
And it
amazing.
actually shows you. I mean,
But that's you too.
Oh, I mean,
oh, my
absolutely.
God. You're so incredibly disciplined.
I am.
So we share a life coach. We share a trainer at the gym. Not that we go together, although I was supposed to come on your birthday.
Yeah.
But Kevin, our trainer, and we talk. Oh, I was doing something today, and I literally said to him, so if Kirsten was doing this, how many would you make her do? Meaning like you would do 30. I was like doing 15. He's like, no, the same amount. He said, but she'd be like throwing the ball back at me and saying, throw it harder at me. You are so disciplined.
Yeah. Well, I think actually.
In everything you do. You really
Oh, really? See, I think I've learned to be so disciplined in
Yeah.
areas that are autopilot for me. Like I was an athlete in high school.
Right.
And so therefore
you-
that translated, I was a race walker.
I thought that was after. That was during. That was a
in
high school sport.
That was a high school sport. It was the mile race walk. It was a 1,500 meters.
Yeah.
And then it was a 1,600 meters at the national level. So when you're at the local level, it was a 1,500, which
I
is
didn't
almost
know high schools had that as a.
So not every high school in the U.S.
We
does.
certainly did.
No, it was in New York. A couple of other California has it. A couple of other states have it. And so, but I got disciplined from that because I ended up being. So I was lucky because I had beginner's luck with the race walk. So I started off. And I was in they start you off in these heats. I don't know if you're familiar with track and field, but they put you
track and field. I am.
Yeah.
But not
so
race
it was
walking.
a heat. So it was, they put me in the second or the third heat
I ran
because
track
I just started.
in high school. So
you're in the second or third heat.
Right.
You're not with the best people. So I think I was in the second heat and I started it. It was the first time ever doing a race. I had practiced and I went out and I won and I was lapping people. And it was the kind of thing where because of the beginner's luck and that high from winning, even though I hadn't won the ultimate race,
right.
I was like, oh, I could be really good at this.
Okay, but why
and then
speed walking and not track?
I'm not really a fast runner. I'm not a fast runner.
Right.
I'm not good at any of those other sports. I did the discus and the shot put at one point, but
all right, but hold on. But speed walking it's time and length, right?
It's very form focused. So your body has to like race walking, basically. It's literally the way that your body
moving
moves.
your hips. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
And it's form. So if you don't have the right form, they disqualify you. So I just happened to be good.
Wow.
I just happened to be good at this one thing, and I was really good. And then I basically ended up winning the state championships my senior year, and then I won the national championship. So I was an All-American athlete in the race walk.
Okay, so it's
random.
form like skating. They
Yes.
judge form as well, not just like track and field where you just finish the race, whoever
Who cares?
wins. Yeah,
you can hit people, you can
however
knock
you
them
get
over.
there.
Nobody
Right,
cares.
exactly.
Just get to the end.
All
This
right, so
was
I want to go
crazy.
back to this. Reminded me when we talked about your grandfather. So my grandmother, Anna Lerner, my father's mother, so my paternal grandmother, her name was Anna, which is beautiful, but they called her Mabel. I don't know why. But anyway, the story goes that in the 1920s, she came over from Hungary and then brought her brothers over. And they started a big business, the Lerner brothers, but that's a side story. This is how I heard the story. She worked for Gimbel's department store, and she was their number one buyer. And I don't know if this number's right because it sounds high to me, but they say that in the 20s, she was making $10,000 a year, which I believe was a lot of money
at the time
for a buyer and she was so successful. Oh, and that the people that would come in to sell all the garments and products that she bought, they weren't educated. They couldn't even sign their name. And she's like, I have all these brilliant brothers. She set them up in business. That's what became Lerner Brothers. But she is she's known as the matriarch. She, started her brothers who became wildly successful and their children became wildly successful. And I think I have her. My cousin once said to me, an older cousin said, oh, you have her energy. And he's a very successful businessman that always asks about my business. And I'll tell you, this is a quick story.
I think I think that happens. It passes. There's something that passes that's passes
everything.
through. Yes, there's
kind of like we talk nowadays about trauma, family trauma that goes down.
Or even just
family
little
success.
Twitches. Even just little twitches. Like my son does this thing that my husband does. He goes like this when he's warm. He wipes the sweat off his brow in the same way. And there's this thing with his tongue, things like that you're like, oh my God, you're not learning that from him. You're doing that because it's an inherent twitch that comes from inside of you.
Interesting.
That you can't. I mean, when you see my sister and my mom and everybody, I feel like we all talk like the same person as well. There's that. I mean, clearly.
Yeah, certainly your younger sister. Wow. She was a powerhouse. She made a speech at your birthday party.
I wasn't expecting
She
that
was
out.
amazing. And I know this because she talked about it in her speech. She's a broker in Atlanta. And
She's actually Charleston.
Oh my God, I got that wrong. Right. I thought
You're
it was.
thinking of Glenda.
Yes, that's right. Sorry, in Charleston. And she literally was talking about all of us sending her referrals in her speech.
Right. She was like, yeah, and just so you know, I'm a real estate agent. I was like, all right, well, you're right. You are. Might as well get up there and say something about it.
That was a fun party. But it didn't surprise me because of who you are. And it was fun people, and great food. And there was a lot of love in the room. It was great.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a lot to come down from, like I was saying.
Yep.
It was really fun. Really amazing.
Now you got to get back to work.
Oh, man. Yeah, right?
Yep. And pay for the party. I gave, can I say this? Yes. So we just, as
You're
people
donating
know.
all over the place.
Well, yeah,
you got
we
a
had
lot
the
going on.
gala, but before that, we had Lily's bat mitzvah. And thank God, we worked hard and we had a beautiful event and whatever it cost. But I said to Kirsten, it's your 40th. Go for it. I give you permission to spend a lot of money.
Yeah, because I had a budget, and you were like, "Oh, you're gonna have to double that, honey." And I was like, "Huh."
And I'm not one that just spends to spend, but I know what it takes to have a beautiful event. So
it's true,
and it's a one that you only do these certain times in your life.
And you know what? It is the kind of thing where once you do it at a certain level, you can't skimp in other areas.
That's right.
Because otherwise, it becomes either super noticeable or just you look back and you're like, "Oh my God, I wish I at least just sprung for the whatever."
No, it was terrific. All right, so where should we go from here?
I know. There was a list here of all kinds of things.
Yeah, we
and
usually
I'm like,
never even refer back to this list. Just some talking points in case we have nothing to talk about.
Oh yeah, us.
All right, real estate. How long you've been a broker?
I've been a broker for 15 years.
All right, so we're going to go deeper in that. But someone said to me, and people ask, well, first of all, I get this all the time. Oh, you're in New York City. It's so competitive. Is it like
so
dog eat dog and cutthroat? And I'm like, not really. I
only have moments.
Experience.
There are moments where I randomly have something happen. I'm like, oh, that was a little cutthroat.
Yeah.
Huh. But it's never something.
But by the way, that would be everywhere. That's a personality. Yeah. But it's not like, I find that people are at a certain level very collaborative.
Yes, at a certain level very collaborative. And then randomly when you're about to sign something very, very large or something like that, you'll have like a cousin that'll come out of nowhere and you're like, okay.
Yeah,
the stuff like that. That's just the way it works, right?
Stuff.
That's just fun stuff.
Yeah, and people ask me, well, why would you have another broker?
Yeah.
And I was like, why wouldn't I? I mean, we normally talk.
Oh, yeah.
And we collaborate and we help each other.
Yes.
And my clients, and there's enough to go around. There truly is. If I work my best and do what I'm supposed to be doing and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, the greatest thing that could happen is that we're competing.
Yes.
Which means we're getting to a level where we've expired or all of our potential.
I think there's inherently this idea that everybody thinks that all agents should be against each other,
right?
Fighting over stuff. But the reality is like, okay, or even think about the situation of an expired listing, and maybe we're better off going to somebody that you at least know and like,
yep, that's right,
than it going to somebody you don't know or like, or know you can't collaborate with if should something happen with your exclusion list or something like that. I mean, there's all kinds of scenarios where it just pays to be friends. And I know like there are other agents out there. Doesn't like Barbara Fox do like a Christmas party every year with all these agents? And I mean, it's not a crazy idea.
No,
it's collaborative.
I mean, we at our parties and events, you end up becoming friends when you're in this business. I've been doing it 23 years. You become friends with people you want, and they're just genuine friends. And of course, I think there's protocol that if you're at an event, you're not soliciting.
No,
but
exactly.
Anyway, that's like.
But also the other part of it is
think about.
The only people who truly understand me are real estate agents.
Right.
Like on some level. There's just like the day-to-day and the understanding of even just being able to hang up on each other or being able to, like, I mean, hang up on each other in like the best way, but be like, no, it's coming in, bye.
Yeah.
I mean,
did that to me yesterday. I got to take this call. This I was expecting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like and then I'll call you back or whatever. It's like that, or like, I know, but I can't really come out until Saturday at like 11 because I'm showing something at 9:30 in the morning in the West Village. I mean, on July 4th. I mean, just stuff that other industries, people would look at you like you're totally nuts.
It's just part of our business. That's really true.
And how much of the business is mindset? Because if I think we've all seen agents who like have been like this and been like that, and it was something personal. Something happened in their life, and that's what really did it. Because this business is so based on what you're putting out there, the energy you're putting out there. I mean, it's like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's come a long way. We've talked about that. So, what's your grandfather weigh? What's the weight? I mean,
like I actually think he weighs like between like 157 and like 163 or something. He's not a big guy,
right. But he's fit.
But he's super fit.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And he'll read it off to you if you're like, oh, so what's your? He's like, well, I feel really good here, and then I can swing up to here, but then I got to get down. I got to stop eating desserts for a couple of days to get back down.
Yeah, again, you'll never hear that come out of my mouth, but okay. So, all right, we're talking a little bit about real estate, or a lot about real estate. 15 years. what would you do? And obviously you were on $1 Million Listing.
Yeah.
You're getting all these speaking gigs. I know you have other things in the works.
Yeah.
So what would you do if it truly wasn't real estate?
Right.
What would you do?
The
If
thing
God
is,
came down and said, you have 2 seconds, tell me what you want to do, and he'd make it happen.
I would just do public speaking, like,
like motivation.
Motivation. I would literally host seminars. Like I love watching what Tom Ferry does. Like I would love to do that with my life all day long. I could do that all day long. And I mean, granted, I think you need to rest in between things because I actually think even no matter how much you love it, there's so much adrenaline that goes into it that I actually think you need profound rest because it is profoundly exhausting.
Yep.
But that, I'm dying to get a book deal. That's really what I want to do. I'm working on that right now. Just like all that stuff around thought leadership and motivation, especially for women, especially for mothers who just feel like they just don't know where to go next. Because I think motherhood, especially for women who maybe have to leave an industry because it's not family friendly for them, or they just in general can't figure out how to make it work being, either being double income at that point, just because the fact that there's sacrifices that have to be made on both sides. I just feel like that is I'm so passionate about that because I feel like I lived it so intimately by being an agent while I was pregnant and then postpartum and then pregnant again.
You were
and then
postpartum?
I did. No, I mean, like I just life in general of having babies and getting through like being an agent.
How old are your kids now?
So 5, 7, almost 8, and 9.
Right.
So I was, I feel like I was an agent and I've been in the business for like, 7 years when I had my first kid. And like, it's real.
This business was, I'm going to say traditionally a woman's business. And so it was that friendly mother or friendly to mother, however you put it.
And now it's like,
it's changed.
Now it's not really that
because
friendly.
that's because this business has it's grown up.
It is a real.
Certainly, well, I'd say in every market.
Yes.
But it got there faster in the bigger markets in the New York City, Beverly Hills, where you're dealing with a certain type of person and higher price points.
Yes, because then you can truly scale because there's, you could do a couple really big deals and then all of a sudden you can have somebody else for something specific that you need, and that enables you to catapult even more. No one does like seed funding for real estate agents starting a team.
Right.
It's all usually self-funded. Even if the brokerage you're with is covering certain things, ultimately it's still coming from your pocket to make the biggest steps, right? The biggest moves when it comes to, who you're hiring and building out that team. So for me, that's what I'm the most passionate about. And I want to continue to kind of work in that area because I think there's so much room for improvement for just making women feel like they can do it and that they need to stick it out, while these kids are little and while childcare is probably maybe more than what you're making. And it's just, it's something that needs to be talked about more.
Do you know, it's incredible. We are so fortunate. It's not just real estate brokers, but where we are in the world today. So Kirk, who says, he's a marketing executive and has been for over 25 years. He said, never in the history of advertising and marketing can you reach the most people with the smallest amount of money because of all of social media, doing podcasts. I remember Serene, to her credit, who runs all of our marketing and our PR, said she wanted me, this is a number of years ago, she said, well, when she was coming up with ideas, well, we'll do your morning routine. And I said it to Kirk. He's like, you're a real estate broker. No one wants to hear about your morning routine. Now we've got Tyler Whitman showing me his face routine. Not that I have any face routine, but I called him after that and had him recommend some product, which I never bought. Anyway, hello, Tyler. Anyways, but my point is we've come such a long way, meaning we're in this, thank God, business where we're successful and can make money. And it's not like you have to do one or the other. And we can take our platform and amplify it. You did it by being on television, which was simultaneous, got you into speaking and helping women and this whole motivational side. Also promoted your real estate business, and it goes hand in hand.
It does. And it also goes hand in hand for me, especially with recruitment. I really, really attract the people who are like my tribe, the people who it resonates with them because I've been putting out the content for so long that they know exactly what they're getting when
that's
when they're
great.
with. I mean,
Right.
and it happens all the time.
And
They're
the
like,
kind of people that you want.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's not you're some
Exactly.
closed off book that I'm going to work for this real estate agent.
Yeah, like
They actually know you and see you.
yes.
That's great.
If you think about, and I actually think that that's the thing that most people are like, well, do you really get business from like your Instagram?
Right.
Do you really? I'm like, well, yes, I guess, of course, on
Right.
some level, but is it coming directly from there? Maybe not. And is growing an incredible team because you attract top talent because they know who you are? Is that all? That's also a huge part of this
100%.
because the talent and
Yeah.
the team and the people that you work with, that's the business right now.
Right.
Because you can't do it alone. I mean, at the level you're doing business, you can't do it alone.
No. And I fought having a team for so many years.
Oh.
And Vivace reminds me of that all the time when it's like I have to go to the next level. There's a saying that 50% of my marketing works. I'm just not sure which 50%. And that's when they ask you about, and that Tom Furry, who's also our coach, our business coach, we were going through my marketing and talking about what actually works and talking about social media. And you're right. We've sold properties because we had them on Instagram. That's incredible. And you can clearly track that back. However, it just keeps us out there and in front of people and people seeing what we're doing and who we are.
Yeah.
It's promoting.
Reminding people that this is what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been in this longer
and who
than
we
me.
are as people.
Yeah, but it's like people conveniently forget. Yeah. Sometimes.
Well, or whoever's standing in front of them, or like you said, their cousin who's been in the business for a day. Where I've had deals where, I was talking about this with another broker the other day. I've had clients who I've worked with and they said, or someone called me and they said, but I have this best friend or client. And I have to give them something, but they're not going to get the deal done. And I don't, you've been doing it for all these years and sold a gazillion apartments in our building or whatever it is. And I say, listen, I'll pay them a referral fee.
Of course.
And let them they can shadow me or whatever it is.
Yeah. I'll pay them to go away.
Or learn and then they can come join our team.
They can hang out.
Yes.
They can hang out.
Right.
But yeah, that's effectively. Somebody once made me be the one to tell them too.
Oh.
They were like, okay, so I'm introducing you to Kirsten, and now you guys can go in the other room, and she's gonna tell you how this is gonna go down. And I was like, oh, okay. So one of my first,
she gave you the ownership,
I know.
or he or she.
I've always been good at difficult conversations.
Yes, you are, because you know what? You don't avoid them.
No, I don't avoid difficult conversations. Actually, I'm trying to slow down on difficult conversations because I get so dog in a bone with. On certain things where my coach will be like, you need to do this and you got to do this and you got to do this. And then I'll go, go ready, I'm going to do it. And then I don't think and I don't sit back because the truth is it's very easy for them to give you these, like my coach I'm coaching with Yvonne, love Yvonne, but everybody comes in and they've got their 30 minutes with you and what they can distill from their 30 minutes. It just takes time to make some of these decisions.
I see what you're saying.
And sometimes I can get really jazzed up
in
and
the
I
moment
don't.
And you act.
And sometimes it's you're going to have to act and you're going to have to do it, but maybe you don't need to do it today.
Right.
Because the aftermath of doing it today is very different than the aftermath of doing it 10 days from now, a month from now, when you had a plan for how this is going to, how you're going to do things. Whereas in the beginning, I was always so focused on the non-avoidance that I was almost like a bull in a china shop where you're like, I can have any difficult conversation with anybody and I'm just going to do it. And then it's like, oh, but wait, I was so good at not avoiding the conversation that now I'm literally up SHIT Creek without a paddle because
So I used to be the opposite and I've trained myself to be better. I'm certainly not where you are, but I can sit and think and ruminate on something and take all the advice and not act. But I've trained myself to act much faster because it doesn't get you anywhere.
And it doesn't help the person most of the time.
Anyone, including yourself or the person you need to speak to. Yeah,
yes,
that's right.
It's important, but it's a delicate balance. It's a delicate balance from ripping the Band-Aid off and ruining your whole life for a month or something.
There you go. Okay, so where did you meet Stefano?
Oh, so
your husband?
Yes. So I met Stefano in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I met Stefano in New York was because I lived in Italy for a couple of years after college. So I left
because I know your family's Italian, but why?
So I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison, And I had lived in Westchester, New York for 10 years. My parents got divorced. My mom moved to Westchester, New York when I was 10. And I lived in Westchester. And then I decided to go to the University of Wisconsin because I got reciprocity on tuition with Minnesota because my dad was still living in Minnesota. So they still had a reciprocity tuition agreement. Right. So I was essentially able to go to Wisconsin as a state school. And so it was just like, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know where I wanted to go for college. It was a good enough school. I got in. I did it. I just went. And I didn't really love it. Like I made some good friends. It was fine. I was definitely a loner. Like I was ready to just be alone when I got to college. I'm the oldest of 5 children. I had like lived in it. My bedroom in high school was like, had like 2 doors and people would go through my bedroom to get to the kitchen. Like it was like, that was my life. Like it was never privacy, never a minute alone, always just like, and so I ended up studying abroad in Rome my junior year, sophomore year, junior year. And it was like the most incredible experience of my life. I like fell in love with Italy, fell in love with going abroad. It was just like, I literally realized that this is what I wanted to do. And I ended up staying after study abroad for like 6 weeks or 2 months or something and living outside of Rome in a place called Garbatella, which is like a very Roman little area that's almost like a little suburb. It's almost like living in Riverdale kind of thing. And I just was alone for the summer. I had a boyfriend there that I had stayed behind to be with, and he dumped me immediately as soon as the semester was over. And I basically lived with these 2 Spanish women who only spoke Italian.
Hold on. Why'd he dump you? And where is he now?
He was just like, he's married. I think we randomly keep in touch. Yeah. He was just like, I mean, you're like the love of my life and now you're going to leave. And so this isn't going to work for me. So I'm going to get rid of you because of whatever.
Got it.
And so I lived alone. I worked for a midwife. Who's an American woman who lives in Rome, who's a midwife, and I like did paperwork for her. And I just lived in Rome, and I studied Italian, and I finished out the summer there. And then when I got home, I finished out college. We moved to Chicago after college for another guy who dumped me as soon as I moved to Chicago. Okay. Great
pattern,
going really well. Yeah. We're going really well. Let's follow these guys around. It's a really good idea. And then I was in Chicago for a year, and I read that book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Course, yeah.
And I was reading the book, and I was like, this book is telling me I need to go to Italy. So I sold everything I owned. I had a car. I had clothing and a bed and all this furniture. I sold everything I owned, and I put all the money aside, and I moved to Milan. I have a friend named Jessica Kriegel, who's actually a very famous person now. She's actually a thought leader for a think tank, and she speaks about workplace culture all day, every day. That's a whole other thing. Okay. And we've kept in touch over the years. So I lived on Jessica and Fabio's couch, her boyfriend at the time, in Milan. And then I started getting odd jobs. I just lived with a family for a little while, and then it rolled into me moving into a friend's apartment a little bit outside of Milan again, and then kind of waiting tables, teaching English. And then the next thing you know, I got a job being a salesperson. I was the international salesperson for this company that sold licenses for designs of greeting cards and wrapping paper. So like they were selling pictures of Santa and bunny rabbits to all these companies in Eastern Europe and Germany and all of that. And so I traveled around and translated, because at that point my Italian had gotten pretty good. So I was translating for the owner who didn't speak English. And we would go to these big meetings. We went to like UNICEF and all these places. Here I am. I'm like 24 years old, translating for this owner who speaks no English and is actually an extremely vulgar, funny individual with like a cigar, making dirty jokes in Italian that nobody understands. Right. And I'm translating, trying to like
clean it up,
and he's like, the whole thing, it was like the wild. And I started dating the son, who was like a terrible individual. Okay. Another really good choice. Okay. Getting stuck in Italy. And my grandfather and Alexandra come over to visit me in Milan, in Bergamo, which is where I'm now living with the boyfriend, pretending I'm not living with the boyfriend because he was like a really bad boy. And like
was he hot?
Beautiful.
Oh, okay.
Tattoos head to toe, like the whole thing. I get it. Yeah. Like we had a dog together. Bad stuff. He had a 7-year-old at the time. I'm like 23. It was really bad. It was really like epic stuff that you're like, wow, you made it out alive.
So your grandfather met him?
So my grandfather comes into town, and my step grandmother, who she's 17 years younger than him, who had lived in Italy. She had lived in Italy for a couple of years of her life. She looks at me. They meet him. They literally pull me aside, and they're like, "You need to get out of here. It's over for you now. You're leaving.
Wow.
You are going to get pregnant, and you're going to get stuck here, and you got to get out of here." And I was like, "But I'm having so much fun." Right. And they were like, No, you're out. You're out.
He saved you.
You're out. They saved me. It was more her than anything else. My grandfather was like, and they were both so sweet because they just loved me so much. Yeah. And like, they were just like, when someone's in the back of the room being like, oh, no.
Yeah.
They were like doing that, but like in my face. And so, long story short, it took me a minute to get out of there. I didn't get out of there as quickly, but I got out. And I moved back to New York. And my parents were like, my stepfather said to me, if you want to be in sales, because I had been in sales and I realized that sales was going to be fun for me because I loved the people part and the traveling around part and the craziness of it. He was like, you got to get into something where it's big ticket items. You got to sell something that's expensive. None of this selling $200 licenses and getting paid crap. You go and you get into real estate or something else that's a big ticket. And that's what you're going to do. And I was like, okay. So I got my real estate license. I was 24 and I moved to New York. But so there were people that I met in Milan that I kept in touch with. And those people ended up being the people that introduced me to Stefano here in New York when I moved to New York.
Got it.
So it was like a birthday party, and this friend of mine who introduced me to somebody who'd introduced me to somebody who'd introduced me to this boyfriend that I ended up moving up to Bergamo for.
How long were you in Italy? After
it was 2 years after college.
2 years.
I was there for 2 years.
So I lived overseas for 6-7 years after, a little bit after college. I worked for 2.5 years in DC, 3 years, and then I moved overseas. But what would you say? Maybe there isn't, but the experience living overseas, what did it give you?
Well, I speak fluent Italian now, which was great.
Okay, and so that's a real tangible.
And a tangible was really great. But what it taught
and meeting
me,
your husband,
meeting my husband, is that like I literally can go anywhere alone. Like everybody's always like, do you want to meet up and drive over to the party together?
Right.
Do you want to like go together? And I'm like, no, I don't want to go together. And I also don't want to walk into this party and have you attached to my ankle because I prefer to be going in and meeting new people and like doing the, and granted, there are situations that are intimidating and all that, but I was literally, for the first year, I was like literally alone all day, every day. I would go and do my waiting tables and all that, but like I didn't have friends groups. I didn't have gal pals. I was literally taking the subway to and from places. I would listen to music. I would write. I would journal. I would like journal about and I just spent all this time alone. And honestly, like people, and I'm so extroverted.
Yeah.
But I'm almost so much a loner that it's almost like too much. Like now I finally feel like I'm making real relationships in my life.
So that is incredible. So, all right. So when you came to the JCC Gala, now I know you came with Kevin, but if he couldn't go, you just would have, no big deal. And you would have confident ended up talking to people. And
yeah.
That's great.
I
mean, what a lesson to learn.
It just makes you be like, plus I'm very good by myself if I'm going to be alone. Like I don't, and granted, there is a point when you reach a deep level of loneliness and you have to be very careful. Like in a situation like that, deep loneliness will make you do stupid things because you're so good and you're so good being alone. But then there is this kind of slow, lonely thing that will just start chipping away at you. And then you make dumb decisions. You end up with a bad boyfriend because he's like, you've reached a point where you can't be alone anymore. You needed human connection. You needed something. I haven't been living near my family in years, things like that. So I think there's a point where anything can be too much of something.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Scarlett always picks a food and says, well, if you eat too much of that, is that a bad thing? Like a healthy food? Yeah, you'll get sick if you eat too much of anything. So we're getting towards the end, but
I'm long-winded on some of this stuff. Sorry, that Italian story. It's hard not to tell the whole thing.
I love it. The tattoo guy, we got to see a picture of that. What's his name?
His name was Raffaele.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God. No, like really, like you look at the picture and any parent would be like,
get him up.
We're going to get a picture. He's not even going to know. We're going to like blur out the eyes or something.
Deep dive on that.
Yeah, we've got a deep dive.
All right. $1 Million Listing. So you were on for one season before they pulled $1 Million Listing in New York. I think it's only in, are they continuing it in Beverly Hills?
Yeah, it's in Beverly Hills because I think it's literally just Tracy, Josh, and Josh, I think.
Yeah.
Tracy, Josh, and Josh.
Yeah, I think you're right. So how did that come about for your season here?
So
give us the quick.
The quick, because I got to be quick.
And did you have, hold on. Did you have a vision, and was it something you had set your sights on? So
the what really happened was I got a text message from a casting agent, and I had been at a point in my life where I realized I was gonna have to make a change, and I think I knew I wanted to take my real estate career to the next level because Tommy was like 2 years old, so it was starting to get like a little bit less awful, and so I just had this moment and I saw this text come in and they asked me if I'd be interested in casting on $1 Million Listing in New York. And I actually, from the text, thought that they like had only texted me.
Oh, okay. It was a general
It was
casting
like
text.
it was definitely a general text. And I was like, I've been discovered.
But had you been prepping and thinking or manifesting? None of this.
I just had been like, I need something. I need to change.
And
I
how
need
did they
something.
get
I need
you?
to do something. And I guess they saw me on social media. I'd been working on my social. I had like, I had a decent Instagram following, nothing crazy.
Right.
And so they reached out and I started casting. And when I was casting, I got really deep into meditation. I ended up going to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within right before my big casting like screen test. And
I remember that.
And I was so I was just so confident that it was me. I just knew that it was me. I was like, I just really think this is me, and I think this is time, and I think I'm the right person for this. And I actually was in this space where I was like, I think they're actually lucky to have me, because I don't think that women like me want to do this except for me. And I don't know where this is going. And it was a lot of like, is this the right thing? Is this the right thing for my family? I can't believe we're doing this.
Yeah.
And then it was just kind of happened. And I actually wonder if the blessing is that it was only one season, because I don't know how many seasons I had in me.
Oh,
it's a really grueling thing. It's grueling.
Yeah.
It's a grueling, really, really labor intensive thing, especially for a woman, because there's also the hair and makeup piece and the wardrobe piece. And there's just, I'd never really been on camera in that way. And I didn't have that level of creativity around all the other pieces of making it really like producing my own side.
It's amazing that you're such a natural though.
I mean, I definitely was destined to do it, which is why it was the thing that made me feel so confident about casting, because I thought there's only one reason I can think of me schlepping it out for so long in this business that I don't even ultimately know if I love. And it's because I was meant to be on this show. And then it was like, oh yeah, that's what this is. This is what I was meant to be doing. And then, and now I really believe that that's it, because it gave me this whole, it just propelled me. It gave me a reason. It gave me a why. It gave me a, hey, this is why I'm going to make a team. This is why I'm going to go on my own. This is why I'm going to believe in myself. This is why I need to do this. This is, now I have a platform now. And so I think that's what it was for me.
And look where you are.
And look at me now wearing a fuchsia blazer. And chit-chatting about my race walking and my Italian bad boyfriends.
That's a whole other segment. Okay, so let's wrap this.
I'll come back next season. Don't you worry. We can talk about other stuff. I'll interview
I love
you.
that we have seasons.
Can't wait for next season. I know.
All right.
I know. Usually I bring it down after one season. So it's a good thing you got me to the second season or the third or whatever.
We were supposed to do it 2 other times, but I canceled twice. Anyway, scheduling. It's tough. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. This is Steve Cohen with Real Talk. And I'm at Stephen Cohen NY on Instagram. And you can find my dear friend Kirsten. Go ahead. Where can we find you?
Well, he'll be tagging me. So it's Kirsten.Jordan. That's me.
So leave us a review, like, share, comment, all that stuff. Let us know who else you want to hear from, what you want us to talk about. Tim Malone is somewhere in Italy. I'm getting texts that he's running into friends of mine and clients of ours. Yeah.
Good. This was so fun.
Thank you, everyone. This was a lot of fun. I love you. And we'll see everyone soon. Thanks.
Thank you.